I just want to talk Cowboys. So I'm going to start. Don't roll the tape yet. I want to start with the play, the quarterback draw. Now, I would not have called that. Apparently, Kellen Moore called it, and then Mike McCarthy was on headsets. He was good with it. But there are 4 reasons with no timeouts left and limited time why I wouldn't have called it. You can roll the tape now. 1, the sidelines are your friend. The middle of the field's your enemy with no timeouts left. It's quicksand. Stay away. Number 2, this wasn't the case, but it often is. Middle of the field, quarterback draw, big, heavy defensive lineman or linebacker lays on you, you're slower to get up. Number 3, the Cowboys were having success with the strength of their team. Wide receiver throwing to the sidelines, 9 yards, 10 yards, 9 yards. Got 30 yards in 14 seconds. It was working perfectly. I've seen it. Tom Brady's done it 1,000 times. And number 4 is Nick Bosa was out, right? So that meant Dak was going to have a little nicer pocket. And the weakness of the Niners is corners. And the strength of the Cowboys, even with Michael Gallup hurt, is their weapons. Play to your strengths. So, middle of the field, that's a stay away with no timeouts left and limited time. It was working. It was attacking the Niners' weakness. But bigger than that, you're paying Dak $40 million a year. I want to see big boy throws. Tom Brady would not have done a quarterback draw. Tonight, Matt Stafford wouldn't do a quarterback draw. Mahomes wouldn't do a quarterback draw. Peyton Manning wouldn't do a quarterback draw. Now, Josh Allen could, but he'd probably outrun everybody for a touchdown. Dak is not Josh Allen. But all the quarterbacks this weekend, outside of Josh Allen, we wouldn't even consider a quarterback draw. And by the way, I don't think you will with Josh Allen because he has such a strong arm. I'm paying you $40 million a year, not to run. I'm paying you that kind of money, not even to win against the NFC East. It's a crappy division. I'm paying you to make big boy throws in crisis. I'm not paying you to do a quarterback draw and go down to the last 2 seconds. Now, after the game, here was the reasoning by Dak and the Cowboys, apparently.
I mean, it's risky, but when you practice it, as I said, as we've done over and over again, you're not necessarily worried about it. You're trusting your training and everything that you put into it. As I said, I went and ran, got down as I looked up and was getting behind Tyler. Once again, saw the 4 seconds, thought it was time. And, the rest, you don't prepare for things like that. But, I guess we'll start having to, knowing the way this just played out.
Okay, it's not practice. It's not the way it is in practice. Here's the other thing. I have a rule I use all the time. Say it out loud. If there were 14 seconds in the game, you had no timeouts. If you ran the quarterback draw perfectly, and you Dak slid a little late, perfectly, and no defender laid on you, which one did for about a second, and you got the ball to the official perfectly. If it was perfect, you'd have probably 2 seconds left. Really? You're going to make it that close if it's perfect. At practice, you'd have 2 seconds left. Well, you know it's not practice. It's the 49ers. You run a sideline pattern, that takes 3.5 seconds. You'd have 9 seconds left, 8 seconds left. You'd have time for another sideline pattern. In the end, I hated this call. And I don't care what analytics say. The Chargers are pro analytics. They watch the playoffs on TV. The Cowboys there went analytics. Yeah, the Niners kept kicking field goals. They're going to play. But on a bigger picture, let's talk about this. Let me ask you a question, because I know Cowboy fans this morning, they trailed the entire game, want to blame everybody. Do the Cowboys look like a well-coached team? Does Dak look like a great quarterback? Because I saw great quarterbacks this weekend. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I saw great. Dak looked much closer to Jimmy Garoppolo than Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. And do you feel and Dak's your guy now. But Mike McCarthy didn't have to be your guy. But I don't have a lot of sympathy for the Dallas Cowboys if you keep doing the same stuff over and over and over. You're going to run that thing back? So Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. He also appears to have a great coach. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. He appears to have a great coach. And Tom Brady's a great quarterback. And we know at least Arians is a really, really, really good coach. And Josh Allen's a great quarterback, and he appears to have a tremendous young coach. Dak's a solid quarterback. Sometimes he's pretty good, and he's got a weak coach. So you can't change Dak. You can't run him out of town. Where do you make the change? Dak is not talented enough to overcome a really average coach. Don't you think it's kind of strange that since Mike McCarthy left, Aaron Rodgers is going to win back-to-back MVPs? Have you noticed since Mike McCarthy left, we say this about Aaron Rodgers all the time. God, it makes it look so easy. It never looked that easy with McCarthy. It looks easy with Matt LaFleur. But I'm watching all these other teams, and so is Jerry Jones in Kansas City and Buffalo and Tampa and Green Bay. Those are great quarterbacks that have great support systems from their coaching staff. I don't put Dak in that class, and McCarthy's not even remotely close to that class. At least Dak has days, games, Sundays. I mean, they did score over 50, scored over 43 times, over 30 multiple times. Dak has his moments. Does McCarthy? Have you felt in any moment this year, whew, McCarthy outdueled Sean McVay there, or Belichick there? There are moments Dak does. But, I mean, this is what we said. Dallas was going to beat up on the flimsy NFC East, but when they played Arizona at home, they lost. In Vegas, they lost. In San Francisco, they lost. In Tampa, they lost. In Kansas City, they lost. And you're going to run it back? I've never been a fire the coach guy. I've been doing this forever. Like, I'm not a fire the coach guy. I would put Mike McCarthy in an advisory role. I don't want to ruin people's lives. You have to strongly, though, consider today Dan Quinn or Kellen Moore as the coach. You've got to strongly consider it. I mean, how many examples do I need? Folks, did you see the sideline for the Cowboys during the fake punt they pulled off? Here's video for our TV audience. This is a fake punt. Even when they succeeded, look at the sidelines. It's chaos. They were trying to induce a delay of game. They did on themselves. Even when they succeed, it looks like a tire fire. Even when they succeed on the final drive of the game, in the end, it looks like a disorganized mess. The Cowboys were the most penalized team in the NFL in the regular season, the only team in the league to have 14 penalties accepted against them in 2 different games this year. And that's with Mike McCarthy being a head coach for a decade plus. It'd be one thing if you had a rookie quarterback like a Belichick or, Nick Sirianni's got a young quarterback, and then you're like, yeah, they kind of butcher the line of scrimmage. You got Mike McCarthy's been doing this now for a long time, and they look like it is a yard sale. It's a skier that falls, and his equipment goes everywhere all the time. At some point, I got no sympathy for Dallas, Jerry Jones, Cowboy fans. Well, I have sympathy for them, but I got no sympathy if you run this back. This happens in sports all the time, where you've got a problem with the organization. Well, what do? You move the part of the organization you can remove. You can't just fire players. Sometimes you can't trade players. Dallas certainly isn't going to move off Dak. He's a valuable entity. He's a good franchise quarterback. He's good. I can argue that he's basically Kirk Cousins with fewer haters, but I wouldn't bail on Kirk Cousins this afternoon. I've defended Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he and Dak are fairly close. I like Dak a little more, not a ton more. But you got to then move the pieces you can move. You've got a younger coach. I don't know if you've looked around, but young offensive coaches are, winning everywhere. If you want to go defense, he's in-house. He revitalized your defense last year. But I got no sympathy for anybody inside that organization if you run this nonsense back. None.